like one of the most ideal ones, where we are covering like learn, why, build, forgetting the other one, learn, of course.
Most important one, Krinza.
Yeah. But then this is how it works, and I think one thing that really helped us go there is all of these individual connections and individual relationships, because that's like ever long lasting. Even if, I think one thing that happens within DAOs, especially with like remote communities around, it's like you start with enthusiasm, but it just fades out. So how do we make sure that their like ideas are fresh, so like everyone just keeps coming back and back and back, and this is why like the concept of seasons happened, the concept of quarters happened. I'm still confused whether it's seasons or quarters, but like something happened there with this time window, and we're like, okay, these things work, these things didn't work, let's just reiterate and then rework and like come up with a new model every fucking time, and this is what we're doing.
Yes, and that like the value that you give people doesn't like have to be like monetary value. I think if we were to try and document like the number of people that got jobs out of the community, for example, like I think even Rahat and Krinza and probably Dan would attest to that on some level or another. So like, it doesn't necessarily have to cost money, but people need to get value from it. If they don't get value, you're not giving them opportunities to get value, then they're going to go and find that somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll say I got into developer relations in the first place through Developer DAO. So my very first job in Dev Rel was thanks to actually starting Web3Con with Developer DAO. So worked very closely with DappaDan and a few other folks. To just like creating a conference, creating some like value back for the community, and like that kind of introduced me to some of the sponsors and folks who were like really involved in hackathon. So like really putting yourself out there if you're interested in like getting into Web3, being part of these communities is just an amazing way to just do the thing, really. I had no official Dev Rel experience before that point, and now I apparently lead Dev Rel teams. I don't know why.
Apart from being a sick rapper.
But yeah, so looking back then on everything y'all mentioned, what's just your favorite part of Developer DAO?
I went first last time.
Yeah, well.
My favorite part, honestly, is seeing other people be successful. So the comment or the point I made just a moment ago, like the 3 people at this table, but I think would attest to some degree where they are now. Some of that was helped on that journey by Developer DAO, and we've definitely lost count, I think, of the number of people who have had that impact, or it's had that impact on their lives. So every time you see a story like that come out, I wish we had recorded them, to be honest with you, so we could like look back, but it still happens. So I think the biggest impact and the thing I would like most about Developer DAO is the number of people that have got started in Web3 and got a job and got paid, and like we've said, like kids have gone on planes for the first time, left their country for the first time. Like it's been really, really nice to see that.
I agree.
Same.
Nice.
Awesome. So looking at now, I think we mentioned hackathons a little bit here and there as we were talking through all that. So hackathons generally very good platforms for showcasing innovation, just doing experiments, showing just like not only getting a job, but also like putting ideas together with like other people in some limited amount of time or whatever. What would you improve about like how most hackathons are run today?
I'll start with this. I think the amount of investment and time and effort, both from the project, the protocol, and the hackers themselves, gets completely wasted at the end of the hackathon, right? Like after you put all this time in, maybe some funds, grants, things like that, normally it ends with like a tweet that says like, congratulations, Cap for winning first, Rahat for participating because he did okay, and Krinza, you got second, so great job, you won this award, right? It just ends with that. It just ends with that, right? But there's such a more opportunity to build content and to tell stories about your community after that fact, right? Like you literally just had someone dedicate a massive amount of time in most cases to build on your protocol. Like go interview them, go tell their story publicly about like their whole process of when did they sort of doubt themselves about the project or how they learned quickly on building on your protocol. All of these things I think are super important, and I think a lot of projects miss that end story, like building content around after the hackathon that will help inspire other developers, not just the education portion.
Yeah, cool.
I would say, so this is something that we have recently found, like from the personal experience and like what we are building at the Developer DAO. So like what really happens at like usual hackathons is that they just have this audience that they're targeting to, which is like super shadowy developers, that's it. So whenever you go to an event, you go to even like global events or like hackathons, you will see the same people again and again. Even like winning is the same category, like they have this group of people, they always win. One thing that we figured out is that, so there are a lot of Web2 developers who are transitioning into Web3 and they want this support, they want this platform as well. And so we kind of came up with this tiered hackathon. So it's like, okay, we have the same amount of prize money for the super shadow developer. We have amount of like prizes for, also like for someone who's just building out like front end or UI, who's improving on that, or who's good with documentation or starter kits or technical writing. I think this has worked so well, and like that's why we are getting like a lot of submissions and a lot of partners in the ecosystem. They're like, oh, we want to partner with you, just because of this, because they are seeing a wide range of developers coming into their ecosystem, and they're and even like I think it's super important to have like diversification in terms of the audience and users, because if, let's say, if I am the beginner, if I'm a beginner and I stumble upon this technology, if I use it, if I find it interesting, I will keep on building on that no matter what. Like this is the trend that we have seen in developers. Once they start using a tool or platform protocol, they'll stick by that, no matter what.
Yeah, I think like on from that as well. If you think about like the ETH Global Hackathons are amazing, I love them, but it's an awful lot. So for like an individual to pass in quite a short period amount of time in terms of to learn and to be able to effectively deploy something. So you've got like, I don't know, 5 to 10 different sponsors and everyone's trying to hit bounties on all of these different tracks. And I think they are amazing. But I think there's a space in hackathons as well for trying to make things a bit simpler for people, particularly people who are earlier in their journey. And what we found is like trying to scale back the ask. In terms of like what you're expecting someone to learn, and also like making it like a relatively short thing, so like people can get up to speed and they can focus on learning that one thing and like very focused on that one protocol rather than like trying to figure out how to navigate lots of different options. We found that be really successful. And I think the other thing both of you touched on is like getting project deploys is really good and it's amazing, and like blockchains have no value if people aren't building on them. So on kind of like two sides, I think supporting builders afterwards is really, really important. Like if you're going to pay a not insignificant amount of money to run a hackathon and you're going to get submissions, if you're not doing anything actively with those people afterwards and supporting them in the next stage of their journey, then it's probably not going to deliver the value that you want. So we've been trying to solve that problem at Developer DAO by having like a fellowship program. So after each quarter, it's like a accelerator where like the best people who have won these hackathons apply, and then they get like serious support to actually build a product or something, which I think is good. And then look for other opportunities to offer bounties that aren't so focused on shipping something. So there are, for us, we do it for blogs and starter kits and things like that, because there's compounding benefits for that in terms of if we get like 30 articles written about a protocol as part of the submissions, then like, I don't know how many people are going to read that stuff, but like the impact compounds. And similarly with starter kits, and it gives folks who maybe aren't so confident, particularly blogs, who aren't so confident in building and deploying, to be able to participate and get interest in your protocol, and then hopefully stick around and build more in the future.
Nice. So for protocols participating in these hackathons or anything like that, you know, they're trying to build active developer communities, and they're trying to have that thrive on like SDKs, documentation, developer-friendly frameworks, whatever. What's your advice to these protocols when they're just like starting out, maybe with limited resources, and how do they take their tools to market in these situations?
Specifically from a community point of view, or get the community as involved in as much as what you're doing as possible. The more they feel a sense of ownership around what's being created, the more they're going to stick around, I think. And it's kind of surprising sometimes what you get back in terms of like ideas and direction and innovation. But I was having a conversation with Ads here earlier about like designing by committee or trying to build like a company by committee is really difficult. So it's like you need to find a balance between like inbound signal and then like a core group of people that can translate that into action. But like the important bit is you listen to the community and kind of build around kind of the lessons that we're learning from them.
I think one advice I would have, and I probably won't have many fans by saying this, but because given that probably 50% of this room is working as a Dev Rel at the moment, I would say don't rush into hiring Dev Rel, because I think, and I've heard many reasons on why projects and protocols do so, but if you look at like sort of the average employment span of Dev Rel in the Web3 crypto space, it's like 6 months or something. I don't know, Rahat, how long you've been working at Biconomy, but you know, we might see changes, and I think it's because we're asking a lot for these certain individuals. We're building projects and protocols that are in motion, and then we have someone go out to the community to sort of like, you know, sell the house that we're trying to build without any sort of roads leading to it. And I think from my perspective, like the roads leading to it is obviously quality technical docs, quality technical content that once someone is in a Dev Rel role, they can start serving that and using those things. But before you have that, I wouldn't assign a one particular person to just, oh yeah, you handle all of these things, and we'll just continue to build the project, right? Like I think you should get in a way through your project or your protocol how you can come up with the content strategy plan now, and then you find the person after that. Like make sure that they're served with something so they can understand and serve the community in a better way.
Also, like, I think it's the same point where we're like, a lot of protocols, initially when they're just starting out, they fare away with this concept of like MVPs. So they're like, oh, we have to push like perfect documentation, we have to have like all SDKs mentioned, all APIs, all of the tech tools and what's going on with the protocol. It doesn't work like that. Like if you just publish that first draft and like create that feedback loop between the community and between the developers, that will get you more attention, like from developers, from the users, and like everyone, because community would be engaged in the process of like updating the docs and everything. Also, like I think one problem with the docs right now is that we create best docs ever, but no one is maintaining it. Why? Because no one from the internal teams are checking on that. They just, like, no one cares about that. They're like, okay, I mean, the blog is from like 2022, and then there's this GitHub repository, which is probably like private now at this point. So like, this is something that we have to fix, but like, just don't shy away from like pushing that MVP version and then create that feedback loop. So like, create all of these opportunities. I've seen a lot of protocols do this beta testing kind of functionality. You have to invest in developers, you have to invest in engagement, otherwise you won't get anything. Because there are just a lot of protocols, there are just a lot of platforms out there, and they're all competing for the same set of groups, and the chunk is like so little, you have to like fight for them. So you have to create this incentive mechanism as well as like this feedback, which is like seamless in the process.
Yeah, I think more and more as well, it'd be good to try and get protocols that are sort of in the same problem domain or solution space to work together. So you've got, I don't know how many ZK EVM-based projects, how many account abstraction projects, all kind of like fighting for the same attention of people, and it's like, you don't necessarily have to be in competition with each other. Like, what can you do together to like address like the level one of that problem space in terms of getting people educated on it, and then like, and then maybe the protocols do the next step individually. I don't know, but I think the more that these protocols and products can try and align themselves, as much as it might feel unnatural because you're kind of competing essentially, I think it would be really, really beneficial. I know that there's some folks in the industry with a very good public goods heart who are trying to, like Rahat, who are trying to create some more like generalistic content around these concepts versus like that is super specific to a particular protocol. And yeah, the more that can be done, and like maybe even the people at those protocols cross-collaborating and making those kind of things, I think the better it will be for everyone. Yeah.
I don't want to butcher the quote, but is it rising tide raises all boats or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Awesome. Do we have time for crowd questions?
Yes, we do have 5 minutes for questions.
Questions?
No questions?
Any parting words? No?
Docs or doesn't exist?
Yeah, exactly. No, not really. Like, come find us. We can drop you an NFT to get into the community. Hopefully, we'll be doing some really exciting stuff around hackathons, potentially bringing them on chain in the next few months. So, trying to figure that out this week. Actually, meet David from Joke Race. So yeah, hopefully, we'll be doing some exciting stuff soon.
Nice. Join vibe calls if you want to rent. I'm, I think, known for just renting. Vibe stall. I do rent a lot. Yeah, that's it. If you want to rent, join our vibe stall every Thursday, every Monday, every day.
Yeah, vibe stall. Yeah.
Monday, Thursday, Friday?
That would be.
Let's wait for Thursdays. I'm like, I'm free.
Yeah, that would be the other thing about community actually, is like create social space that is not related to the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everybody. If I can just have you stand up and take a group photo. Our photographer is at the back. And everyone, if you have additional questions, their information is on the monitor, so make sure you DM them. Thank you so much, Developer DAO.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so our next powerhouse is Yeshu from Krinza. I believe he is on his way to the house. Yeshu, are you almost here?